What we do is we direct monies to underserved communities with regard to poverty reduction. But also I'm part of a group with Calvert that does venture kinds of investments that we think will help make a better world and make a little money. We just made an investment last week in a group called Shangri-La Farms based in Yunnan province and in Beijing. And what they do is they help train Tibetans on the plateau. Yunnan is part of a very multicultural province in China, to make honey, to manage bees, and also to do kind of a fair trade coffee kind of management. But what these people do is create the product such that it has a high-end audience, the packaging, that kind of thing, so that it sells. And we just made an investment because they've been doing quite well, and moving into some soaps and some other indigenous products that need a packaging, and these people have that gift of packaging and create the value add, and so the sustainability works for everyone.
And how's that impacting the communities?
Well, to create jobs for Tibetans on the plateau and to give them an opportunity to learn a new skill such as beekeeping, and to be able to get not foreign exchange, but to get money to the villages where they do that makes a difference. We do a lot of microfinance around the world, and coffee co-ops. So for example, we were the largest lender to Root Capital, and what they do is create, well, if you can cut out the middlemen, the lives of the farmers become better if they kind of organize and create co-ops in a sense. So we've lent to them, for example, if they have an order from Starbucks, and we'll put up the cash for them to bring the crop to market, put it on the boat, and to ship it. And this helps them, basically make a little more money because they're not selling it to a finance intermediary that is kind of taking a certain amount of the value proposition. So it's a good one, and we make money, they make money, more money, and they can, feed their kids better, school them better, and it's a good way for our investors to feel like they're getting a modest return, but they're also having impact on the supply chain. Presence Learning is a company in California that was solving a problem where the school systems have a few students that need special education, special training, or speech therapy. And it wasn't cost effective to have teachers on staff. They just couldn't do that, and yet there were these state mandates. So these people, Presence Learning, invented a way that one could be effective in telepresence over the internet to be able to deliver the services in a way that's affordable for the school system, and yet the student gets the kind of impact and attention on an individual basis that they need. So that company is, I think, doing pretty well, but that's another example of how sometimes we need to rethink how to create value and to care for the underserved in ways that are cost effective and sustainable.
So how does an investment help that sort of an organization to scale, and does the funds that do those funds get allocated to particular aspects of their business, for example, infrastructure?
Well, yes. In this instance, they're meeting a need of the California school system, which mandates. So you either meet some of these mandates, or you cut soccer, or you cut the special education assistance, and it's basically being able to have the school systems having to do more with less in terms of serving their population. And to the extent this is becoming successful, and I know they're raising more money and they're enrolling more schools, as the feedback is that this works, that some chance they could go national. So yes, leverage possibilities.
So tell me what you thought about the impact sourcing session. What stuck out in your mind?
Well, we're buddies with RSF Finance, who is kind of a sister to Calvert Foundation, and have been involved in looking down the supply chains to where you get on a village level and ask questions about what is being added here. because we turn around, the people we finance kind of sell to the public that sometimes there's maybe 5 or 10% higher price in the goods because it is fair trade. In fact, I think one of our investments was in a company that helped with fair trade, the actual certification, supply chain kind of activities. And I think that as we begin to realize the world is one big whole, that how the income of the workers and the environmental aspects, the health aspects, how these all go into costs that really need to be recognized to kind of have a dignity across the supply chain. In the U.S., we back in the 50s decided somehow cheap food was a better idea than nutritious food. And we basically went with the high fructose corn syrups and the massive agriculture and the monocultures. And while our food costs came down, our health costs went up. And I think that this is another example. You need to look at the whole system and the impacts in that way. And that's what we do in our supply chain management
centers.
Well, another example of a company in which Calvert Foundation, we've invested over $1 million is in Tanzania, and it's a potato company, but they don't make potatoes, they make the little seedlings. And these need to be crossbred in ways that are bred right for the climate, the water, and where the farmers feel like these tubulars, the things they sell, have a good chance to going to market, won't spoil, are somewhat disease resistant. We don't use GMO, of course, but it's very important that for farmers, that the farmers can't take big risks when they go into new crops, and yet they need to create more value-added crops. So what we've done is help them go in this direction to have tubulars, little seed potatoes that have grown a little bit, that they can farm, they can feel confident that they can harvest, and that there is a market for them. So it isn't just one thing in the supply chain, it's also being able to mitigate the risk that these farmers, you and I can take a little risk, but sometimes it means starvation if something goes wrong. So we also invested on that level in a group called Leapfrog, which is a microinsurance fund to help take the risk off cattle growing with regard to disease, and then certain crops with regard to weather. And you and I don't lay awake at night worrying about rain, but for some people it's life and death. So these are kind of things we look at in our supply chain support.